All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Dania Rogers, creator of Warrior Women Portrait. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with the amazing warrior Michelle. Welcome.
Thank you, Danielle. I'm so excited to be here and share my story and my
And
warrior
portrait.
women, which I should have brought it. I have it framed upstairs at my desk.
Oh,
And
awesome.
due to various things, I'm not at my desk, but I look at it every time I sit down and realize just how much of a badass I am. So super excited to be here today.
That is wonderful. Well, I always like to start out the video and just kind of like hearing about your story, your journey. Everybody's unique in certain situations. And so I love to hear kind of where your journey began, where it is now, and all that good stuff.
Sure, I will give you the short synopsis because I could talk forever. So I'm actually a two-timer. I was first diagnosed on through a regular mammogram when I was 41, and I do have a family history. Learned to find out that I am genetically negative, but my grandmother did pass away from metastatic breast cancer in 2008. So I received my first diagnosis in December of 2012. Like I said, I was getting a regular mammogram. I started getting them early because I knew I had a family history and I just wanted to be as proactive as possible. So when I got that call, like, you need to come back, you lose all the blood out of your body, your stomach just sinks, and essentially your mind shuts off. So I went back and did the ultrasound and the biopsy same day, thankfully. And I had my wonderful husband, who's my rock, literally holding my hand the entire time. Because if you've never had a breast biopsy, it's not really fun. It's like they put something that's a mini stapler in your chest and just take little samples as the tears are just rolling down your face. So did that, and I received the diagnosis 2 days later on December 7th, the date which will always live in infamy for me, that I was positive for breast cancer. I was hormone positive, so ERPR positive, HER2 negative, which I was told was the best kind of breast cancer to have. It all sucks no matter what kind of breast cancer you have. And the really hard part was I was told that the options for treatment were wide open to me because my survival rates were exactly the same if I chose to have a mastectomy or a lumpectomy with radiation. And knowing that I had the family history in the past, I had always said, wow, if this ever happens to me, I'm having a bilateral mastectomy. Who cares about boobs? I don't need them. And what really changed my mind was that I had a young son. When I was diagnosed, my son was only 20 months old, and I was not ready to go through a very challenging surgery and what everything that entailed when I still wanted to cuddle my son. I waited a long time to be a mom, and when they were telling me that my survival odds were really the same, against my husband's wishes, I chose to have a lumpectomy and radiation. And I went through that radiation. I look back on it now and I term it rather easy for going through a breast cancer diagnosis. And none of it was really easy, but I've seen so many women and what they've gone through that I felt like I was on the scale. I was about at like a two versus nines and tens, and I've known many of those. But I went through that and moved forward. I did 4 years of tamoxifen,
And
and then, yeah, love the endocrine therapy. It serves a purpose, but it's really challenging for many. So
yeah,
2000, January of 2017, because after that December mammogram, I I moved my mammograms to January because within 2 months I hit my out-of-pocket insurance deductibles both times.
yeah, yeah,
So
absolutely.
that is a pro tip. Do not ever get your mammogram in December because a couple weeks is not going to make any difference.
No.
So, diagnosed in my other breast, it was not a
Oh,
recurrence, it was a new primary occurrence in my other breast. And I can joke about it now and saying, oh, that breast felt left out. And it was like, pick me, choose me, get rid of me. So at that point, when that happened, I threw all the barrels at it and I had a bilateral mastectomy. I opted for reconstruction because I'm a fairly large woman and for me, I still wanted to feel proportionate. So I went through the process. mastectomy, work towards reconstruction, and I also made the decision to have a total hysterectomy because I was hormone positive both times. Essentially,
Right.
it was the same pathology both times. The other breast was a little bit faster growing, but otherwise they were identical. So I chose to have all of the lady parts removed. And while my mind was, I did not have chemo either time. I was very fortunate in that aspect because it was not recommended for my stage or my grade. And so I went with it. I'm vain. I like my hair, and I chose to forego chemo. And I'm now 7 years out from my second diagnosis. So fingers crossed, everything is all
Right?
good.
That's awesome. Did you have, I was not hormone positive. How was, I mean, I'm more accustomed to like the surgeries regarding the breast. How was the hysterectomy? Was the recovery time like similar? I mean, I know women do that all the time as
Sure.
well. I'm just curious more than
Yeah,
anything.
comparatively, compared to a mastectomy, hysterectomy was a piece of cake. It was laparoscopic. I remember being a little bit high as you get wheeled into the operating room, and it was by one of those giant, I say, technological monsters that had various arms.
Like,
And like yeah, you could see the scalpels and the cameras. And so I came out of that with five very small incisions. And they kind of just, as crazy as it sounds, they go in and they essentially chop everything up, take it out through your vagina. And it's just bonkers, but the recovery time was not bad at all. It was literally in and out the same day.
that is amazing. I mean,
Yes.
technology, like honestly, if you think about it, is just like how in the world did they even like, how is this even possible? Like, it's
It
just
really blew my mind. And I had gone to my regular doctor for a separate appointment literally a week later. And she's like, "You had a hysterectomy a week ago?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm all good." So, I mean, I took it slow and I was, moved easy for quite a while. But that whole year I was moving easy. And after going through the mastectomy and then the reconstruction process, I essentially lived with a soft down pillow in my torso area for 6 months,
yeah,
no matter what.
yeah, yeah. How did you handle the expanders and that portion of it?
I was terrified to start off with because I think that is one of the worst parts of breast cancer is the unknown. You have no idea what's happening. They can describe things, but until you're actually having it done, you're like, okay, this is going to be awful. And I was afraid of pain. And honestly, there was very little pain because essentially with my mastectomy, my nerve endings were cut and they don't grow
Right,
back. So as I was expanding, because they put in the expanders during the mastectomy. So they're there. And then you start filling them once a week for 5, 6, 8 weeks, depending on your size. The first appointment, I literally was sitting in a chair, not looking down, and I sweated through the entire sheet that was on the chair. I mean,
yeah,
dripping sweat.
yeah,
It was insane. And
yeah,
after I got over that, I was like, oh, it's no big deal. So you go, the little magnet, they find the little metal opening, they insert it and they pump it up. And many people describe intense pain as your skin and muscle is stretching. I didn't have that. The worst part was when you got close to time to do the exchange surgery, take out your expanders and get ready for the implants. It was having baseballs on your chest.
yeah.
So I used to be a stomach sleeper. Mastectomy changed all that. And it was just like they were high and they were hard and they hurt. But once the expanders were taken out and the implants were put in, that surgery was also piece of cake. It was a game changer. Like I actually felt decent again, other than the fact that I had no nipples.
Right, right. And what did you do about that?
I chose to get nipples tattooed on because originally I had thought, well, I'm going to get little nipples made by my plastic surgeon. However, once I thought about that a little bit more, I realized I had so loved just wearing tank tops and I did not want hard nipples all the time.
Isn't
So,
it? It's those funny things that you just don't even think about, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, do I really want that? So do you like what the tattoos have done? Like, do you
oh, I
feel like
love it.
everything?
It was huge for me. It was a really big step on feeling normal again because I have flat nipple tattoos, but the different colors and how they do it is th it's like 3D. It's amazing. I've shown friends from across the room and they literally have to come up and look
Yeah.
super close and they're like, those are so cool because you wouldn't notice unless you're right next to me or you're feeling them. But on my left breast, I actually had a lot more work done because since that breast had been previously radiated and I wanted reconstruction, you cannot expand radiated skin or muscle. So I had to have a latissimus back flap on the left side, where another thing about
Wow.
technology, they literally, excuse me, they literally take skin and muscle from your back, wrap it underneath your armpit, and put it out through your breast. So I
Yeah.
have back skin and muscle on my breast, and I wanted to cover up some of those scars. And so, in addition to the nipple on my left side, I have a ring of cherry blossoms
Nice.
because they're my thing, hence behind
Clearly.
me. And I love the rebirth and the new life symbolism of cherry blossoms. And so I carry them with me forever.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I love that you found your path to reclaiming your body after going through multiple things like that. I think it's really important to, again, reclaim your body. We go through cancer diagnosis. We're just kind of drafted. That's kind of how I like to put it. We're drafted to war. Um, and so those kinds of things can really just bring back ownership of your body. And I highly recommend to anybody, like if there's anything, regardless of what your choice is, if it's going to, provide you comfort,
Mhm.
go for it. Like it's really, really empowering. And I felt the same way after I got my tattoo. I just felt like I reclaimed my body.
Yeah.
And it was more of my choice than the cancer's choice at that point. And so yeah, I totally understand that. Well, let's talk about your warrior session. I was so excited when you signed up, and tell me a little bit like how you were feeling first when you saw the experience. What made you sign up? And we'll just start from there.
So many women, when they go through breast cancer or any kind of cancer, say it's a battle and they're fighting. And not everyone identifies with that, but I did. I I would do everything I can. Well, obviously not chemo, but I would do all the things to get the cancer out of my body. But you do feel like you're going to battle because you're having to find resources and ways to feel like yourself again once this the treatment is hard, but survivorship afterwards is also so incredibly hard and it's not discussed enough because once you go through a cancer diagnosis, your life is changed forever.
Absolutely.
Every day I wake up, and while it's not in the forefront of my mind, I know I have been through cancer twice. There was something in my body that wanted to kill me twice. And you really have to use everything, like you said, in your arsenal because you are going to war.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
when I saw that you had started and created this warrior portrait experience, I 100%, I literally, as soon as I saw it, I reached out to my best friend who I had met through breast cancer. She was my mentor at Breast Friends, the nonprofit where I volunteered and then worked at. And I said, you're doing this with me. We're doing this together because cancer brought us together. We would have never met otherwise, would have never connected. But she is so much a part of my second post-treatment journey
Right.
and the gifts that I found after breast cancer that I knew I wanted to do it with her because I'm someone who always likes to look pretty in
Right.
pictures.
Right.
I'm not a funny Halloween costume person. I don't do weird hair things. Like I think I've always been a little bit insecure in how I look in various ways. And so dressing differently or expressing myself in that way was never really an option. But my mindset has changed so much after cancer, and I knew that I was a warrior. So I saw right away, I'm like, I am frickin' doing this because I want that image on my wall forever. So reached out, we signed up, and literally was just so excited, could not wait to get there. Really had no idea what to expect. And everything exceeded my expectations of that day. Just was so amazing.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And ultimately my vision was I just wanted these warriors to just show up and have everything catered to them, right? And not having to worry about what they're gonna wear or bring or all that stuff. I want to just like I got it all for you. We'll just and whatever your vision is, we're gonna do it. You said you like to be a little more pretty, and every lady is so different that it totally doesn't matter. Like whatever, if warrior, if you the word warrior doesn't really speak to you, I always say like goddess or something a
Mhm.
little more feminine. And that's one thing that I love about this because it can transform whatever your vision is. I just allow you to have the tools to make that happen.
And walking into your studio was so warm and so welcoming. The plates of little snacks and my best friend had brought little sparkling rosé. So we had our little cocktail as we were getting putting on our makeup. And I will say I was intimidated by doing the makeup because I don't consider myself a makeup artist, but you had so many different tools there and the different makeup, and it was just so perfect. And we got to eating and chatting and putting on the makeup. And once I realized what I wanted, I just went crazy and I just
Yeah.
started adding more and more color it, and I finally got into it. I'm like, okay, this is super cool. And then you came over and you're like, and I was looking at photos that you had. I'm like, and I have a ton of hair, but I'm like, what are we going to do? And you braided my hair in like these multiple braids going back on my head and put these like little clips and stuff in them. And honestly, Danielle, if you could do my hair like that every day, I would 100% do it because it was just so like what it was what you would see on TV, like
Yes.
on Vikings or something like that. Like it really helped me get into the character and get ready. And then going over and like, oh my gosh, there's actual axes and the swords and the just all the accoutrement that you have available to make the design of ourselves truly become warriors was more than I could have ever hoped for.
Oh, that is amazing. And I'm so glad you had that experience because that's always what I'm aiming for, right? And you mentioned the swords and the axes and stuff like that. I've made it very clear that people don't have to use those if they don't want to. It's totally up to them. I've actually shifted some of the items that are just like fake chains or rope or things like that, where it isn't necessarily like a full-on weapon,
Mhm.
and it's kind of allowed some more segue to someone that isn't necessarily wanting that aspect of it. So
Oh my God, I mean, oh my, I loved all the photos. Like I had the ones with the daggers and like, I mean, it was just like the options available and the furs and the wraps. It was really, I really felt like having all that there, I was able to embody the true warrior experience,
yeah,
plus being able to do it with my friend. And like she was watching me, I was watching her, and I have over time become much more comfortable in front of a camera, and I had a hard time not smiling. And you're like, look fierce. I'm like, I don't know how to look fierce. I just want to smile because I'm having so much fun.
yeah, no, and it's funny because I love getting the two pictures, right? The like, "Ugh," and then the laughter right after because it is absolutely ridiculous of the things that like, and like let's just be, like let's growl at the cancer, let's, whatever, and then just have fun with it and be laughing and just play dress up, really, right?
And how
As
often do you get to play dress up as an adult?
absolutely, and I do find that. Um, at least when I did mine, because I did do mine, my husband was the little shutter guy, um, and it allowed me to see myself differently because I was I don't want to say a character because a persona, so to speak, that persona of the warrior that a lot of us don't see ourselves as warrior. We just do what we've got to do, right? But ultimately, we really are warriors, and I feel a little greedy in the sense of I get so much from these sessions as a reminder to myself, because it's really important to me to have every single person in the room be a cancer warrior. I want everybody to know the experience. So I love that you were able to do it with your best friend, but I also love seeing new friendships being made and connections and supporting each other. And it's really magical to watch.
It
Um,
truly is. And for the women who do sign up, and I recommend it for everyone who's gone through this because it allows you to put a whole different perspective on it. And for me, it was part of my moving on post cancer. Like last year for me was in a lot of ways, I left the support organization that I was working at to finish writing and publish a book about my cancer journey, which I did. It's called I Never Liked Pink Lessons Cancer Taught Me. So you can all find that. But also taking that portrait was and having it on my wall was another way of saying goodbye to cancer. Like I will always help women and be an advocate and talk about my experience, but I'm moving on to other things. And that was like closing the door for me. And my desk where I work and I host a podcast, We Rise by Lifting Each Other. It's my
love
podcast
it.
where I speak to organizations like nonprofits and individuals who help out people just because. But my desk has always been very curated to cancer and various things. And when I printed out an 8 by 10 of the portrait that I had chosen, I moved some other stuff around because I wanted that in the center. It's next to a painting of cherry blossoms that my best friend did for me, and there's my portrait. And they're
Love
right
it.
next to each other. And I chose one that was kind of like a smirk on my face, and I'm holding a sword like this, and I've got wrapped around the skins wrapped around me, and it makes me feel like a queen. Like I'm a freaking warrior queen.
Yes.
And every time I go into my office, I look at this and I was like, damn, I am strong. Look what I did. And it's leaving a legacy for my son. And just it allows me to really put into an image how I feel now and how I feel after I finished my cancer journey.
I am so glad you brought up your son, because that is one thing that I share with women. Aside from this being so transformative to the warriors, but the message that it's sending to your children to have that in your house, that little boys can see a woman really strong and it's okay. And it's, that's totally fine and accepting. And to
Mhm.
have little girls be like, my mom is strong and I can be that one day. Right. And so I love that you mentioned that because, I do feel like it's transformative to not just yourself, but your family to be like, yes, yes, this is who I see, right? While you were going through your battle. Um, so
And definitely, and my son he was not even 2 the first time I was diagnosed, and then he was 6 the second time. So the second time he really remembers. And that's when I went through multiple surgeries. And he's lived with me. He lived with me for the 5 years that I suffered from aromatase inhibitor side effects. And I was not able to do so many things. And now that I'm no longer on that medication, I actually do feel strong and powerful and like a badass. And just having that image there reminds me of how far I've come.
yeah, that is amazing. And I am so glad you have become part of my life for so many reasons. So why don't you tell me if you have any things that you had learned maybe while you were going through with your hormonal blockers or surgeries or whatever, if there was anything that you found comfort in, and then added on to finalize our talk is what kind of positives have come out of having breast cancer?
Sure. So one thing which I tell everyone, I think, which is the most important part of when you go through any kind of a trauma, find your people. Knowing that you are not alone can make such a big difference in your life. The moment after my first diagnosis, I did not seek out support. I kind of compartmentalized and I moved on because I was very busy with my son and other things in my life. But when I was diagnosed the second time, I was broken, mentally broken. And I went through treatment and I was trying to like get my life back and I didn't know what to do. So eventually well, not that long. Eventually I found breast friends and I walked in the door to volunteer because I realized that I could give something back. But I found so much more in that organization. I found support that I didn't know that I needed. I found community and it brought so many wonderful things into my life. That was a huge pivot for me in moving out of the trauma space and into a positive space. Something that, it brought so many gifts into my life. So number one is my best friend, my person, Yvonne. We're getting matching tattoos together later this year. We are the yin and yang. Well, she calls me Ying. And I didn't correct her in the beginning because I thought it was so funny. And now she knows that it's actually yin, but she's like, whatever, you're Ying. But we're getting that tattoo together. I realized that I want to help people. When I started to volunteer at Breast Friends and then became an employee, I realized that I have something special because I'm willing to be an oversharer. I will talk to you about anything about my cancer journey, what it did to my body, how it affected my marriage, how it affected my son. And that's why I wrote a book about it. I would have never written a book if I didn't have cancer. And I also learned that I love to speak. I never thought that I would want to be a public speaker, but I was able to take over the hosting of a podcast for Breast Friends, which is still out there, Breast Friends Cancer Support Network. It was out there for 6 years. I did it for 2, and there are hundreds of episodes if someone is looking for side effects, technology, inspiration, they're all there. But when I left, I decided to host my own podcast because I realized how important it is to help people. And that is now a huge part of my life. I want to give back. I want to help others. So as having breast cancer essentially brought me amazing people, it brought a new career into my life. I'm now a published author. I'm working on being a speaker, and I would have never done any of these things without it.
That is amazing. I just love that so much because I too, and I'm not trying to take away anything from what you just said because that is so amazing, but these warrior experiences, I feel like this is the reason I was born. Like,
They fill your soul.
yeah, it is just like this. I just, I really wasn't sure. Like, I'm an empty nester now, and I don't have kids around all the time, and I really kind of gravitated just to being mom, right? And after they were gone, I'm like, I had no purpose. I don't even know who I am. And going through the cancer journey, it really, I'm like, it's now fulfilling. So I totally understand that 100%.
Cancer, for me, it definitely clarified what is important. My family, my friends, helping other people. That's it.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, it would be nice to make some financial success off of all my things, but who knows? It
right.
doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm helping people buy my book through my podcast and by speaking on stage and sharing my journey because they know I'm a warrior. Like it's funny, I'm putting together literally a keynote speech that I'm going to start to pedal myself out to be a paid speaker. And I am going to put my warrior portrait in that speech to show them like this is how far I have moved. I've literally like in my head, I've already put it out like I am in a hospital bed here, and the next photo is going to be my warrior photo.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. Oh, that gives me chills. Oh, I'm so happy for you, Michelle. I am just, yeah, I just can't say enough. And we'll have all the links down below, so everybody can find all the information about your book and Breast Friends and the podcast and all that lovely stuff. So
Well,
I
Danielle,
so
thank you so much for having me. I literally, if I could pay for everyone to get these portraits done, I would. So anyone who's watching, you can donate to Danielle to sponsor women who are going through this. So
absolutely,
please find a way to do that because life-changing, life-affirming, and you just feel like a badass warrior.
yeah,
And that's, I know what your intent was to show how strong we are.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, I'm so excited. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I can't wait to give you a big squeeze the next time I see you.
I know. I'm so excited. Thank you so much, Danielle. It was
Awesome.
great to chat.
Thank you so much.